AI is poised to revolutionize our understanding of animal communication. By training AI to understand animal communication better than we can, using thousands of available data points and hours of footage of animal interactions. AI, which allows researchers to analyze huge amounts of audio data of animal calls in seconds that would take humans decades to sift through, is revealing the intricate dynamics of animal communication and helping us realize that human language may not be so unique after all. The complexity of animal language taking place beyond human perception is gradually being revealed across the species. Researchers have found that birds can produce extremely diverse and complex vocalizations, and can hear frequency and timing of acoustic detail 2 to 3 times smaller than humans can. Zebra finches and other birds seem to be exquisitely sensitive to the acoustic details of individual syllables to a degree that is beyond human hearing capacity. The exquisite sensitivity to the acoustic details of song syllables in zebra finches and other birds also suggests that birdsong is much richer in transmitting information about the state of the singer than we could ever imagine, since we are not able to hear much of what is conveyed at the level of acoustic fine structure. The mechanisms underlying vocal production in birds show differences, but also notable similarities to those involved in human speech. Researchers have shown that similar neural pathways and molecular mechanisms control vocal learning and production in songbirds and humans, a product of convergent evolution. The similarities between birdsong and speech in production and learning are well established. New research reveals that these birds don't simply learn their songs by imitating adults. They learn by watching their mothers' reactions to their immature songs. Researchers have shown that the songs are organized into several phrases, which consist of series of syllables. Syllables, in turn, are made up of a collection of single notes or elements. How the birds perceived a particular note depended on where it fell in a snippet of song. Researchers found that birds can arrange the calls they make in order, like words in a sentence, with the arrangement of calls changing the overall meaning, a system known as syntax. It turns out we're not the only species that can recognize and apply sentence structure in communication. Researchers showed that budgerigars can learn artificial grammar and were able to apply those rules to new, previously unheard sentences. Bengalese finches follow a set of grammatical patterns and rules. Researchers showed that the birds were able to learn new grammatical rules and that passerine songbirds have the ability to process hierarchical structures, an ability that was previously supposed to be specific to human. Recursion, the process of embedding structures within similar structures, is often considered a foundation of symbolic competence and a uniquely human capability. Researchers found that crows produce recursive sequences and continued extending them to longer and thus deeper embeddings. Starlings can also recognize recursive center embedding rules. These results challenge the recent claim that recursion forms the computational core of a uniquely human, narrow faculty for language. While we may never be able to decipher the intricate details of bird language, researchers have interpreted some phrases. In studies on the black-capped chickadee, they decoded phrases like cat on ground and aerial attack. They found that the birds communicate a predator's size and relative threat and tell other birds of individuals they spot or entire flocks they recognize. A short tweet from a chickadee can tell other birds their sex, species, and geographic location. With artificial intelligence, scientists have discovered chicken communication is far more complex than previously realized. Their clucks, squawks, and purrs are not just random sounds, but a complex language system. AI can now decipher 6 distinct emotional states with 80% accuracy. Scientists now recognize that chickens use sophisticated signals to convey intentions, and their communication skills are on a par with some primates. 30 vocalizations have been decoded. In reality, it's probably much higher than this. However, so far scientists have only tracked 30. Researchers found that their calls are quite specific. Alarm calls not only announce the species of predator spotted, but also its speed, size, and direction. Researchers also found that roosters will communicate how tasty a certain food is and will alert hens to their favorite foods. Could there be more nuance in chicken vocalizations that we do not yet understand? It's definitely possible. Rats were long assumed to be silent, but with new technologies, researchers have discovered that rats are talking constantly, in frequencies too high for the human ear to detect. Using software that translates their high-pitched communication into visual images, researchers found that rats engage in social communication through a rich repertoire of ultrasonic vocalizations, USVs. Rodents make these 20 USVs, which scientists call syllables, and structure them together in lots of different combinations, much like language. Researchers believe these noises are complex enough to be described as syntax, which forms language. The calls of male rats become even more complex when they sense a female nearby, as if they are attempting to woo with a courtship song. Mice also speak with USVs. Male mice learn songs like birds do and change pitch to compete with other males for females. Researchers found that mice can be taught to vocalize different notes, just like humans, dolphins, and whales. Squirrels also have a complex language of their own, much of which is beyond human perception. The use of harmonics, which has been discovered in squirrels and marmots, allows animals to extort a larger bandwidth to communicate at a higher frequency that exceeds human hearing. Researchers found squirrels will produce different alarm calls, distinct in structure and frequency, to identify unique predator types and to elicit a specific behavioral response in the receivers. While alarm calls have been the focus of most studies, squirrels have many distinct call types varying in function. Language is used in courtship, mating, territoriality, facilitating aggressive or amicable interactions, and communicating internal states. In research, there has been a strong emphasis on alarm calls, likely because these are often the highest amplitude calls. They are produced in response to human observers, and they are most obvious to humans given our own sensory bias, making alarm calls the easiest to record. Researchers discovered that the duration of whistles warns of aerial predators or terrestrial predators. They have species-specific calls, and the addition of syllables describes when these predators are nearby. A specific call type may communicate the behavior of the calling squirrel and may influence the behavior of the receiving squirrels. Complexity is still being discovered and understood with improving technology. Using sonograms to analyze the distress calls of prairie dogs, researchers found that prairie dog colonies have a communication system that includes nouns, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. The prairie dog's barks, yips, and chirping sounds are really a sophisticated form of communication that contains a vocabulary of at least 100 words. Professor Kon Slobodchikov of Northern Arizona University was able to decipher 20 different words and phrases, such as tall human in yellow shirt and red-tailed hawk. Slobodchikov said of his research, "We're chipping away with this at the idea that animals don't have language." Elephants were also assumed to be mostly silent, as most elephant communication is beyond the range of human hearing. Just because we can't hear these sounds, though, doesn't mean they're not loud. An elephant's booming rumble can reach volumes of up to 117 decibels, as loud as an ambulance siren. Elephants can hear each other's rumbles from distances of up to 4 kilometers away, and an elephant can recognize the calls of hundreds of other elephants. Elephants are capable of a huge range of vocalizations, which they make by allowing their vocal cords to vibrate while they exhale, the same way humans do when we speak. Researchers decoding elephant speech, known as rumbles, have discovered that elephants use these rumbles to say hello, give directions, and warn each other of danger. Researchers have decoded specific rumbles such as "I'm here" and "Help, I'm lost." One group of researchers deciphered a rumble meaning "Look out, humans," and another meaning "Look out, bees." Elephants use similar vowel-like changes in their rumbles to differentiate the type of threat they experience. Elephants rely on a complex communication system to sustain their clan-based society. At the root of it is a common language. Elephants are not only capable of expressing complex thoughts using this common language of intricate acoustics, they have a great deal of social and ecological knowledge to share. They have a wide range of calls and signals for different purposes: to secure their defense, warn others of danger, coordinate group movements, reconcile differences, attract mates, reinforce family bonds, and announce their needs and desires. They address each other with specific names like calls. Dolphins use words and sentences to speak to each other much like humans do, a new study says. The sounds that dolphins make say far more than what meets the human ear. For the animals, those clicks and whistles are a complex chain of words and sentences, allowing them to convey messages with one another in a language that mirrors human communication. The analysis of sounds registered in our experiments showed that the dolphins took turns in producing words and phrases and did not interrupt each other, which gives reason to believe that each of the dolphins listened to the other's pulses before producing its own. Essentially, this exchange resembles a conversation between two people. The songs of humpback whales have a complex syntax containing the elements of language. Mathematical analysis of the song shows there are complex grammatical rules. Using syntax, the whales combine sounds into phrases, which they further weave into hours-long melodies packed with information. It turns out all those moans, cries, and chirps convey significant amounts of information. Over time, the group's song becomes progressively more complex. Researchers found that, while all humpback whales share a love for learning new songs, those songs change and spread through whale populations in different ways based on their geographical environment. One study has found humpback whales can learn incredibly complex songs from whales from other regions. Scientists played a recording of a humpback greeting call using an underwater speaker. They were stunned when one humpback whale they had named Twain responded in a conversational manner. In a world first, scientists had a conversation with a whale. Now, researchers are trying to find out what they are actually saying. Insights into how whales convey important information through song may come from how human cultures use song to convey information. Lynn Keeley of the Natural History Museum in Australia defines songlines as a knowledge system for a non-text-based society. Songlines are an ancient memory code used by indigenous cultures around the world. By singing the songs in the appropriate sequence, Aboriginal people can navigate vast distances with no written record. In Wales, songlines are thought to be used to embed navigational, mating, and foraging knowledge into each generation. Songlines have been used by whales and people to navigate their environment and communicate throughout time. Whales and dolphins have been passing down culture vocally for 34 million years. New technology and AI are helping researchers to decode communication in cows and revealing there's a lot more going on than meets the human ear. It was only in the past 20 years as scientists developed more rigorous audio analysis techniques able to pick out the subtle changes in an animal's call, differences in pitch, loudness, and vocal roughness, that they realized a lowing herd of animals were actually speaking with a cacophony of individual voices. With technology, dubbed Google Translate for cows, they discovered that cows talk to each other about food and the weather and communicate with one another in similar ways to humans, taking turns in conversations. The study found that cows use their voice to help them maintain contact with the herd and express excitement, arousal, engagement, or distress. The voices encoded not only an individual cow's identity, but also their emotional state, whether they were happy or sad, frustrated or distressed. It all relates back to their emotions and what they are feeling at the time. New artificial intelligence software can decode conversations between small monkeys called marmosets. From short 6 and X to drawn-out fees, all the sounds produced by marmoset monkeys are made up of individual syllables of fixed length, according to a new study. Researchers have now deciphered 15 calls and discovered that marmosets give each other individual names. Studies suggest that, like human babies, baby marmosets learn to communicate by hearing other marmosets talk to them. Marmosets eavesdrop on and socially evaluate vocal exchanges and use this information to distinguish between cooperative and non-cooperative conspecifics. Chimps are capable of complex vocalizations far beyond what more pessimistic scientists thought was possible. Scientists have discovered almost 400 words. They flexibly combine words to make unique vocal sequences. Similar to humans, chimpanzees combine vocalizations into larger communicatively meaningful structures. Great ape vocal behavior is underpinned by a much more powerful high-order cognitive machinery than traditionally presumed. The vocal behavior is not simply a reflex or conditioned response towards danger, but a measured and controlled behavior. Orangutans talk about the past and about future goals. Researchers filmed orangutans using vocal language to achieve 8 different goals, things they wanted another orangutan to do, using 858 vocal signals. Orangutan calls have a complex structure that was thought to be unique to human language. Short sequences are nested inside longer sequences, much like the way we assemble long sentences from shorter phrases. It turns out that early ideas that the noises created by other animals were random and meaningless is equivalent to presuming that Morse code is nothing more than random noise. From the clicking of dolphins to the dancing of bees, other species are conveying information to each other in ways that have eluded human perception. AI is just beginning to translate the meaning behind the barks, yips, and chirps, fees, ticks, ecks, clucks, squawks, purrs, clicks, whistles, and rumbles, revealing the complexity of variations in pitch, volume, frequency, duration, and other sophisticated nuances behind animal sounds. Correcting the record on the sophistication of animal communication has been a long and difficult process. One of the remarkable things about the history of digital bioacoustics research is the consistent resistance to each new set of discoveries. For example, when bat echolocation was discovered over a century ago, most scientists refused to believe it, partly because it was shocking that bats seemed to display a more sophisticated form of sonar than the military had only just recently invented.